Weinstein and his accusers reached tentative $25 million deal. After 2 years of legal wrangling, Harvey Weinstein and the board of his bankrupt film studio have reached a tentative $25 million settlement agreement with dozens of his alleged sexual misconduct victims, a deal that would not require the Hollywood producer to admit wrongdoing or pay anything to his accusers himself, according to lawyers involved in the negotiation. Before we read this, let's take a little stroll down memory lane. 2 years before the allegations of sexual harassment and abuse against Harvey Weinstein became public, his own brother and business partner, Bob Weinstein, confronted him, pleading with him to get medical treatment for what he described as many years of misbehavior. Now, here's where it gets crazy, okay? The attorney, Gloria Alred, is one of the most vocal crusaders against sexual harassment and assault.
The attorney Gloria Alred represents several alleged victims of R. Kelly, and she says this VHS tape appears to be new evidence her client stumbled across when cleaning out boxes in his basement.
Attorney Gloria Alred is holding a press conference at the Lotte New York Palace. She says it comes in response to threats and retaliation by singer R. Kelly against one of his alleged victims. He has been accused of physically and emotionally abusing more than 50 women. Let's listen into the slide.
I'm attorney Gloria Alred. I represent 33 accusers of Bill Cosby.
Privately, her firm helped negotiate a settlement that muffled one of Mr. Weinstein's victims in 2004, taking a 40% cut. The firm has also worked on settlements that silence victims of Larry Nassar and Bill O'Reilly. In an interview for She Said, Alred defends her use of confidential settlements, arguing that the clients are not forced to sign them and offer prefer them for reasons of privacy. If they wanted to be private, they could just not speak. What do they need to sign something to say I'm not going to come forward for? Shut up. Alred's daughter, okay, the lawyer, Lisa Bloom, a prominent victims' rights attorney, was working behind the scenes with Mr. Weinstein at a rate of $895 an hour to squash the journalist's investigations and thwart his accusers. Woo! Pause. What does Neely Fuller say about how the white supremacist is on every side of every argument? In a confidential memo to Mr. Weinstein that Ms. Bloom wrote in December 16, which is reproduced, and She Said she offered to help him damage control with the reputation of one of his accusers, Rose McGowan, and portrayed her background as a victims' rights advocate as an asset. I feel equipped to help you against the Roses of the world because I have represented so many of them. Ms. Bloom wrote before laying out a multi-step playbook for how to intimidate accusers or paint them as liars. One of Ms. Bloom's suggested tactics for undermining Ms. McGowan, we can place an article regarding her becoming increasingly unglued so that when someone Googles this, it's what pops up when she is discredited. You see, black folks, cyber, black people, cyber. You see what they do? This is what they're doing to their own. You think that we're crazy when we're telling you guys that these are conspiracy theories and all y'all calling us conspiracy theories, telling us we wearing tin hats? Look at this. You think, and this is what they're doing just to squash Me Too. Just to make Me Too a movement against black men. And not a movement against rapists of all kinds. It's a movement against black men. Look at what we're doing in this situation. You think they wouldn't put something on the rest of us? Look how they tried their hardest to make Dave Chappelle look like he was crazy when he didn't want to suck their dick. Okay? When he said no. When they came knocking and they told him, do what we tell you to do, or we're not going to say do this deal with you. He said, y'all can suck my dick. And what did they do? They painted him as crazy. All the news stories. When you Googled him, it came up that, is Dave Chappelle losing his mind? And now look at Dave Chappelle, showing us that he is as sane now as he was back then. I'm going to read that again. We can place an article regarding her becoming increasingly unglued, so that when someone Googles her, this is what pops up, and she's discredited. Ms. Bloom accompanied Mr. Weinstein on a surprise visit to the Times the day before the initial article was published to present the journalists with the information intended to portray several accusers, including Ashley Judd, the first actress to go on record as an unreliable and mentally unstable. Ms. Bloom has said she was crossing sides to work with Weinstein to encourage him to apologize for his behavior. Apology. They wanted Bill Cosby behind bars. They got Bill Cosby behind bars for Benadryl that he gave people in their hands. He didn't slip it in the drinks. He gave her the Benadryl. She took the Benadryl. They said he drugged her. How?
He had 3 blue pills in his hand.
3 blue pills.
3 blue pills, and he put his hand out, and I said, "What are those?" And he said, "They'll help you relax." And I said, "Like, are they natural? Are they like a herbal remedy?" He said, "No, they're your friends. Just put them down.
They're your friends.
They're your friends. Just put them down."
Swallow.
And he hands me some water. I get some water somehow, and I swallow the 3 pills down.
Why do you do that?
I took them because I trusted that they would maybe just help me feel a little more relaxed.
You trusted him?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
You didn't say what the pills were, and I understand that people want them to be Quaaludes because people, not you, want for those to be Quaaludes and are trying to conflate issues. But what the deposition revealed says that it was Sustanex, and that the complainant in this case took it willingly after complaining of being unable to sleep and complaining of pain to the head. So the incident that you described, the actions that you described from the deposition, I know you know are not criminal. So the fact that someone took some medication that is legal and over the counter,
you're not. You said that I know that is
consensual sexual contact is not illegal.
She later told reporters that she deeply regretted representing him, which she said was a colossal mistake. The quintessential white woman. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I didn't. No, my God. Another member of Mr. Weinstein's legal team was attorney David Boies, helped Mr. Weinstein evade scrutiny for his treatment of women over 15 years, working to halt reporting on the producer by news outlets, blocking the board of Mr. Weinstein's company from reviewing his personal file, and helping Mr. Weinstein execute a contract with Black Cube, an Israeli private investigations firm that promised a $300,000 bonus if it stopped the Times investigation. Ryan Farrow, who published a separate Weinstein expose in The New Yorker in October 2017, later broke the news of Black Cube's work for Weinstein. She said reveals emails showing that during the time that Mr. Boies represented Mr. Weinstein, the 2 men discussed potential film roles. Everybody wants to be in Hollywood, except for my black ass. I'm running from Hollywood. Mr. Weinstein and the 2 men discussed potential film roles for Mr. Boies' daughter, an aspiring actress. Oh, shit. In an interview for the book, Mr. Boies said he was unaware of the underhanded tactics that the Black Cube used against journalists and regretted not paying closer attention to the firm's work. Once again, I'm sorry. What nearly full of that? The white supremacists will give you an apology any day of the week. What you want? How many apologies you want? You want truckloads of apologies? I got truckloads of apologies. As long as I can still subjugate you. Y'all wait on that apology. I want my check. But he defended the assistance he provided to Mr. Weinstein as a producer, sought to conceal allegations, and said he didn't have any regrets that I represented him the way I did. Child, I did my, and once again, we go back to Rika. She talks about all the time now how when the Nazis were put on trial, all of them said they were just doing their job. Okay, so you hear that a lot, you know, people in certain positions, you know, when they shoot unarmed, you know, black people in the back, and they say, I was just doing my job. How can you fire me for just doing my job? Proposed global legal settlement has gotten preliminary approval from the major parties involved, according to several of the lawyers. More than 30 actresses and former Weinstein employees who in lawsuits have accused Mr. Weinstein of offenses ranging from sexual harassment to rape would share in the payout, along with potential claimants who could join in the upcoming months. The deal would bring an end to nearly every such lawsuit against him and his former company. It would be paid by insurance companies representing the producer's former studio, the Weinstein Company, because the business is in bankruptcy proceedings and the women have had to have made their claims along with its creditors. The payout to the accusers will be part of an overall $47 million settlement intended to close out the company's obligations, according to half a dozen lawyers and some who spoke about the proposed terms on the condition of anonymity. Mr. Weinstein is scheduled to be tried in Manhattan early January on charges of sexual assault involving 2 women, only 2. On Wednesday, a state judge raised his bail after prosecutors accused him of mishandling his ankle monitor. Now we're going to switch to another article. The lead prosecutor, Joan Aluzzi Orban, said that Mr. Weinstein's ankle monitor had stopped transmitting at least 57 times in less than 2 months, and that he had not reported these breaches to the Manhattan District Attorney Office. These are not technical glitches in any shape or form, said Ms. Aluzzi. Mr. Weinstein did not want people to know where he was. Ms. Aluzzi said that Mr. Weinstein had sold 5 properties in the last 2 years for $60 million and suggested that he seemed to have unlimited resources. He has disconnected himself from any real property in New York, and he has no real incentive to stay in New York, she said, suggesting he could easily flee and avoid prosecution. Then it goes on to say his lawyer said it didn't work due to dead batteries and bad cell phone service. Then he's going to have surgery in a couple weeks to recover, so he wants to be cleared by then. While his criminal prosecution has drawn public attention, the largely hidden negotiations over civil claims have been far more consequential for many of his accusers, including women from the United States, Canada, Britain, and Ireland. So he's an international rapist. More than $12 million, a quarter of the overall settlement package, would go towards some, but not all, legal costs for Mr. Weinstein, his brother, Bob, and other former members of the company's board, the lawyer said. The board members would be insulated from future liability, and the alleged victims would drop all their claims against Mr. Weinstein and other executives. Several plaintiffs' lawyers said Mr. Weinstein, who would avoid making a personal payout. Now remember the other article where they said it seems like he has unlimited funds, $60 million he sold property for. Several plaintiffs' lawyers said Mr. Weinstein, who would avoid making a personal payout, had claimed that he might soon file for personal bankruptcy. Catherine Kendall, 50, an actress who accused Mr. Weinstein of luring her to what she thought would be a work discussion in 1993 and then chasing her around his New York apartment while he was nude, said she was disappointed by the terms, but had agreed to them partly because she didn't want to block the fellow plaintiffs from getting whatever recompense they could. I don't love it, but I don't know how to go after him, she said in an interview. I don't know what I can really do. Jeannie Harrison, a sexual harassment lawyer representing Sandeep Rihal, a former Weinstein assistant who was part of the proposed settlement, said that holding out for more favorable terms might have left the alleged victims empty-handed. A combination of preliminary legal rulings against various plaintiffs, laws that protect boards against liability, and previous failed settlements efforts have put the women in a weaker bargaining position. Now, Bill Cosby some of the complaints were over 40 years old. The drug they said he gave doesn't even exist anymore, which they lied about that, at least in the case where, he was convicted of. But they found a way. The case got rejected the first time. They got rid of the prosecutor and got a new attorney general to make sure that they could lock him up. But these women are in a weaker bargaining position. Okay. The settlement will resolve lawsuits filed by dozens of women since 2017 when the New York Times exposed allegations of sexual harassment and abuse by Mr. Weinstein. Although the producers' accusers include some of the highest profile women in entertainment world, such as Gwyneth Paltrow, Angelina Jolie, and Selma Hayek, none have joined the proceedings. A lawsuit by actress Ashley Judd, who has said she intends to take Mr. Weinstein to trial, would not be part of this deal. The process had been long and complicated, involving lawyers for the women, Mr. Weinstein, his former board members, creditors, insurers, and United States Attorney General's office. Last year, when Weinstein's company entered bankruptcy, the accusers watched their potential settlement payout dwindle from a projected $90 million, a victim fund that had been discussed as part of a possible sale of the studio. Then Eric T. Schneiderman, who's the state attorney general, had sued the studio, and the Weinstein brothers were steering settlement talks, but he had to resign amid allegations that he had abused women. Even if the proposed deal goes through, its terms would come with uncertainty. 18 of the alleged victims would split $6.2 million, with no individual getting more than $500,000. A separate pot of money, $18.5 million, would be set aside for those who are part of a class action case, the New York Attorney General's suit, and any other future claimants, with a court-appointed monitor allocating payments based on the severity of the harm alleged. Two women who have brought civil suits against Mr. Weinstein, Alexandria Canosa, a producer who worked for him, and Weedle Davis, an actress, intend to challenge tentative agreement, according to their lawyers. Douglas Wigdor, who represents Ms. Davis, said she objected to the current deal because of the clause saying that if the two women did not participate, $1 million from the fund could then be used instead by Mr. Weinstein for his own defense costs. He added that they would be precluded from pursuing board members or the insurance company. What's most offensive is that they're trying to force his clients to settle, Mr. Wigger said. The plaintiff said many of us are outside the statute of limitations. 40 years ain't outside the statute of limitations. Many of us are outside the statute of limitations, and we can't have our day in criminal court with Harvey, said Caitlin Dooley, 56, who accused Mr. Weinstein of sexually harassing and assaulting her in the mid-90s. Even a flawed statement, she said, might bring some justice and relief. Zoe Brock, 45, a former model who was accused Harvey Weinstein of sexually inappropriate behavior, said in an interview that agreeing to the settlement terms made her feel defeated and hopeless because neither Mr. Weinstein nor his former board members would be required to pay the alleged victims. But when she looked for legal alternatives, she found none.